Good evening and welcome. Tonight's evening talk, a series of our Friday talks that happen every week. Want to welcome each and one of you, give you a very warm welcome to each one of you. We have a very special speaker on today. I've known this speaker for a good few years now. Most of you have probably seen her in Leicester at the Harmony House. But there's a few things I want to share about this speaker we have for this topic, which is going to be the karma question. I've known Indu a good few years now, and there's few things I'd like to mention about Indu is that she's one speaker that when she starts talking, I don't want her to stop, because she's always got something that she has to share, and everything she shares is so simple yet so practical in our daily lives that we can go away and use. And this is something I always enjoy when I hear Indu. The other thing I want to mention to you as well is that Indu has had the great fortune of spending a lot of time with our senior daddies. And every time I talk to Indu, it's like some of the great wisdom and knowledge that they've passed on to Indu, it shows through her in her everyday daily life, because you see her greatness through her words, deeds, and actions. And for me, that is a very good karma. So Indu, I want to welcome you to today's talk. And I'm sure a lot of the questions that everyone has will be answered during the talk.
Thank you, Usha. Thank you very much. This topic of karma can be a very hot topic, and it can also be a very painful topic. But it's not just a topic that we discuss. It's something that's happening 24/7. And we throw about this word karma a lot, and we think, oh, it's so and so's karma. But with karma doesn't come without law. The word law of karma is associated with it. So this law of karma applies to human beings. It does not apply to animals. For example, if one human being kills another, then it becomes punishable. It's considered a crime. But if one animal kills another, like for example, if a cat kills a bird, it's not considered punishable. It's not considered that the cat has to go to jail or pay a fine. So this law of karma is only applicable to human beings. The other thing about this law of karma is that it is omnipresent. Omnipresent means it is worldwide. It's not specifically for a group of people, or specifically for those who meditate, or specifically for those who do crimes. No, it applies to each and every one of us. It's omnipresent, it's worldwide. Let me give you some other names for this law of karma. You could also call it the law of consequence, or you could call it the law of cause and effect. I'll give you an example, a very basic example that you must have heard many times. Supposing somebody puts their hand into a fire. For whatever reason, mistake, accident, their hand goes into the fire. That is the cause. And the effect of that action is they will get burnt. So this is not rocket science. Cause and effect. Sequence and consequence. Or in the Bible, this law is very beautifully said, the law of sowing and reaping. So, as you sow, so shall you reap. This is natural. This is not man-made. This is nothing to do with God. This law is not even God-made. If I sow something, naturally I will reap something. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But the beauty about this law of karma is that no one person makes the decision of what should be the reaping. Often, well, not often, mostly when we break man-made laws, if we break the law of we don't wear a seatbelt, or we break the law and we cause disruption somewhere, or we murder somebody or steal something, then these laws have a punishment. Break the law, there will be naturally punishment. And one person, a judge or whoever, decides the punishment. We are taught, society is taught, not to take law into our own hands. Means if somebody does wrong, then we cannot retaliate. If somebody steals something, if somebody does a burglary, if somebody murders someone, then we have to call the police. They are the agents who bring about law enforcement. But in this law of karma, there is no one person, there's no agent, there's no group of people, there's no policeman standing somewhere or a judge sitting somewhere and deciding they did this mistake or they did this sin, they did this crime, and this is the punishment. This law happens automatically, organically, and it's natural. We cannot specify when the sowing took place and when the reaping will take place. So somebody's complaining that they're not getting volume. That's the message I'm getting. So just check if your audio is on. So this law is mentioned in many different ways. One way I've already mentioned, as you sow, so shall you reap. At any given point in our life, throughout the day, we are either sowing or reaping. When we're sowing, we will reap in the future. When we're reaping from what we have sown in the past. However, it is possible that I can be reaping and sowing at the same time. For example, the reaping might be some form of physical suffering. For example, cancer. For example, arthritis. For example, some disability. That is considered to be the reaping, the punishment, the suffering. Now, whilst reaping, at the same time, human beings are born to multitask. Multitasking is not something new. So what I'm saying is at the same time, whilst the reaping is happening, I can also be sowing for my future. So let's have a look at this word karma, action first. Anything that ends with ing is an action. For example, walking, talking, sleeping, breathing, thinking, crying, sitting, these are all actions. Smelling, seeing, these are actions. Now, out of these actions that we perform all day, like whilst we're going for a walk, we are walking. At the same time, I can be talking to my friend. And whilst I'm talking, I can also be thinking. And naturally, at the same time, I am breathing and I am also seeing what is happening around me. So this is the multitasking that we do. So many actions are happening at the same time. Out of these actions, which actions have a consequence? For each of them, the consequence is different. And for some, the consequence is not a big deal. But for some action, like for example, the thinking. If I'm thinking waste thoughts, weak thoughts, negative thoughts, then that is what has more of a consequence than the walking or the breathing. Excuse me. See, I'm coughing. So there are certain actions in which the consequence, or you could say the effect, or the reaping is severe. It can be negative or positive. Karma isn't always negative. Give me 1 second, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. So, which actions have more of a consequence? Which actions do I need to pay more attention to? Now, what we also need to discuss is what is the purpose of a law? Because the whole country, the whole way to every country has certain laws. And there are reasons for that law. One reason is that to restore or to maintain order. You say, no, the word law also comes with the word order. Law and order. Another reason why there are laws is to protect the rights and liberties of human beings. If there were no laws, then the world would be in more chaos than it is today. This law of karma, in scientific language, you could say, so the Bible says, as you sow, so shall you reap. In scientific language, it is that for every equal and opposite action, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So an example of that, my action is I throw a ball against the wall. So the reaction is that the ball comes back to me. That is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is if I have this understanding, so whatever I give out, be it on a thought level, be it with my eyes, be it words, be it something I do with my hands, whatever I am putting out, ultimately it will come back to me. So if I'm putting out negative vibrations, if I'm seeing and criticizing with these eyes, if I'm talking nonsense or rubbish or negative things, or if I'm using my hands to abuse somebody, physically abuse somebody, at some point, somewhere, somehow, all of that will come back to me. Now we have control over the outgoing. Whatever is going out, we have control over. We don't have control over the incoming. It's like with your phone. You have full control over the calls you make, the outgoing, but you don't control the incoming. Anybody can call at any time, the incoming. And so, whatever I'm putting out, whether I'm giving it to another person, or I'm just thinking it generally without another person in mind, I am putting it into the atmosphere. Our negative thoughts have the power to damage the atmosphere. We can create a good atmosphere, or we can create a negative atmosphere. I choose. I, the being, I'm a human being, so I choose what I'm going to put out there. So now we're going to look at the words we use. We say we are performing karma. When we perform karma, at the same time, what is happening is I am creating a karmic account. It's like each one of us has an invisible bank account. Means it's not in Barclays or NatWest or somewhere, but invisible within the being, within the light that I am, the star, the energy, the power that I am, that energy holds an invisible bank account. And in that bank account, there is the credit or the debt or the debit, what I owe is there. And when we start to learn to meditate, what is happening? When we start meditating, our karma changes. Means the pattern of our thinking changes. Earlier I mentioned thinking is a karma. So we learn new thoughts. And when I use that thought, when I plant that thought, that is called the sowing, because that thought is equivalent to a seed. So I am planting a thought, a seed. Whatever I plant, whatever I sow, then that will be what I reap. But there are different ways of sowing. So, for example, when I was young, I was told that if you get coriander seeds and you just throw them in your garden, you will get coriander. And I tested this out. I must be 8, 9 at that time. So I took from my mother coriander seeds and I just threw them. And yes, I got coriander, which my mother used. But there are certain seeds that you have to bend down, make a hole, and plant that seed, like daffodil bulbs or certain things you have to do carefully, consciously. You have to do it properly. So in meditation also, it's not just a question of throwing out some thoughts. Now, because whatever I experience in meditation, that will impact my behavior. Whatever I experience in meditation will have a huge impact on my behavior. For example, when I meditate, if I carefully, consciously sow this thought, I am a peaceful soul. I'm not just throwing it out there anyhow, but carefully, consciously, properly, slowly, I am a peaceful soul. Then, through this thought, I will experience peace. And whatever I experience reflects in my behavior. What I experience in meditation, then my behavior will be peaceful. This is why you'll see meditation creates within us a deeper, more sustainable change. We want transformation in our life. I don't know if it's just me but I meet people who want to change. And they've made lots of lifestyle changes. For example, they've become vegan or they work less hours, they've given up a stressful job. They make a lot of lifestyle changes, but they don't experience success in their transformation. For example, I've become vegan, but the anger is still there. I have left my job, but the frustration, the stress, that is still there. So the deeper changes require a deeper understanding. The changes that we need to make are on a thought level. They're on a very deep level of thinking. This law of karma does not deviate. We cannot think, I have got away with murder. Sometimes we think so-and-so gets away with whatever action they perform. Sometimes somebody's nasty to someone, horrible to someone, they deceive someone, and externally to others and to that person themselves, it looks like they are getting away with stuff. They are getting away with deceiving others. Externally and immediately, it does look like that. But if I really understand the law of karma, then what I'm going to share is, and you can make a note of it, I'm going to share 3. There's a few things that I'm going to share, but it's all to do with 3. There's 3 of everything. So within this law of karma, there is 3 types of karma that we perform. Then, when I understand those 3 types of karma, there is also 3 types of reaping. Reaping is actually on 4 levels, but there's 3 types. So whether it's sowing or reaping, the 4 different ways that we sow or reap are: 1, on a mental level; 2nd, on a physical level; 3rd, on a financial level; and 4th, on a relationship level. Mental, physical, financial, relationships. This is what every single human being has. There is no human being who doesn't have these 4. Even if somebody is brain dead, they still have a mind. And it's the mind that's working. There's thoughts which are happening, but they cannot express them. Means the TV set is not working, but the recording, the relay, where the news is happening or the recording is happening, that is still happening. Your TV set might not be switched on, it's not working, but the mind is still recording it. There's still stuff happening in the mind. So when I say that 3, so what is the 3 things that are the 3 sets of 3 that I'm going to give you today? One is there is an immediate reaction. So, or you could say immediate reaping, immediate effect. Immediately something happens. The 2nd is short term. The 3rd is long term. So immediate doesn't necessarily mean that you do something and immediately you get a response or a reaction. Immediate means within a few days, within a few, like if you sow a cauliflower seed, within 6 months, you will see a beautiful cauliflower. So that is considered to be immediate. That is what happens immediately. But there are some seeds which take longer. So, for example, what takes longer? My gardening skills. So what short term means is it's not immediate. It might be after a few years, might be 10 years down the line, might be 20 years down the line, but that is called short term. Long term is considered to be that from you've done the action in this birth, but you see the results a few births later, or maybe even in your next birth. So it's like you've sown a mango seed. Somebody gave me an example. You've sown a mango seed. The results happen after many years. So you've done something good in this lifetime. The only way to understand karma, the only way to have peace of mind is I have to know there is a before and after. It's not just this lifetime we're talking about. When I understand there's a before and an after, then every question, every doubt, every hurt, every pain has an answer. For example, if someone is born blind, if someone is born disabled, then the question that comes to our mind, or the question that causes us pain, is that they have not yet started to perform any karma. They've not done any action. They've not hurt anybody. They've not given sorrow. They've not had negative thoughts yet. They're just born. Yet why is there suffering at birth? So this can only be understood if I understand that this is something they bring from their past. It's like in a bank statement. At the bottom of the bank statement, it's written, balance brought forward. So whether it's credit or whether it's debit, it is a balance that I bring forward. I know one friend since childhood, and she struggled with walking. It means that when she walked, it was painful for her. And at that time, I didn't have this understanding. I must have been very young at that time. And one thing that I remember her saying and doing is she would always hit herself here. She said, what have I done? What have bad actions have I done? She would always hit herself here. And she knew in her heart of hearts that the suffering that she's going through is a collection. It's like many karmas that I've performed, negative, positive, whatever. And because of those many, today I am suffering. There is pain when walking. She struggled to walk. So she used to say, what have I done in my past that this is my situation today? However, when she started to learn to meditate, then, yes, she knew that she'd done something in the past, which was why she was suffering. But there was another attitude which came in. And that attitude was, I am clearing a debt. I am finishing off something that I might have owed someone somewhere. Like I said, there are 4 ways of sowing and reaping: mental, physical, financial, and relationships. Out of these 4, which is the easiest form of suffering? On every level, there is suffering. Mental suffering includes stress, anxiety, fear, depression, schizophrenia, personality disorders. It includes all of the mental illnesses that we hear about these days, because mental health has become an even bigger issue than it ever used to be. Loneliness also comes under mental health. And emptiness, a heaviness, all of this comes under mental health. So mentally, I'm suffering because mentally, I have had negative thoughts. The mind has been used to create negativity, and it's that which becomes a debt which I have to clear. Now you would say, well, within depression, I'm not having negative thoughts so much about others, but I'm having negative thoughts about myself. So If I'm having negative thoughts about myself, I'm not sending it out there. I'm sending it to myself. Out of these four, the easiest form of suffering is the physical. Why? How? Cancer, arthritis, there's lots of physical diseases, physical ailments that we have. Why do I say it's the easiest? Because there is medicine available to relieve us of our suffering. So you take medication for a couple of hours, you're pain-free. Or for a couple of hours, you can do something. Whilst there is physical suffering, the mind can still be strong. So physical suffering is happening, but mentally I am strong. And it's with the mind that I am going to sow at the same time. Clearance is happening because of the suffering, but I am accumulating because I am sowing pure seeds, elevated seeds, powerful seeds, practical seeds. So I've given an example. I am a peaceful soul is a seed, and if I sow it with love, then the response, the reaping is not just something that's going to happen in the future, but I will also immediately feel calmer. I will feel lighter. The immediate effect and the cause was that one thought. I am a peaceful soul. But that one thought is not sufficient. That one thought will make me feel calm, but it will not give me access to power. I will feel peaceful. I will feel I've sown a positive seed, but I also need power. And to get power, I need to make a journey. I need to make a journey to the powerhouse, the one who has an abundance of power, the one who's not going to turn me away, the one who's not going to say to me, you took yesterday, you can't take today. I've given you enough, no more. Because that would be an insult. That would create a lot of hurt. So God is that one powerhouse who does not reject it. Doesn't matter what my backlog or what my previous karmas from many births are. It's not just one or two births we're talking about. We're talking about many births. So within those many births, we have all performed different types of karma. What are the types of karma we performed? Obviously, good karmas. Good karma means where I have given happiness. That is the definition of good karma. Then, bad karma. Obviously, the opposite of good is bad karma, negative karmas. And the definition of that is where I have given sorrow. Not necessarily I've given sorrow to human beings, but we can even give animals sorrow. Supposing I'm beating a dog or something, that is a negative karma. And you'll think, well, what will be the response of that? What is the effect or the consequence of that? What will the dog do to me, or what will the cat do to me? It's not necessary that the one on whom I have performed the karma, or the person I have had the negative thought for, it's not necessary that it will come from their direction. Supposing I have deceived somebody of money, I have financially, business-wise, I have deceived them. So what will happen not necessary that they will deceive me. Why? Because they might not have the habit or they might not have the nature of deceiving others. They might not have the nature of giving unhappiness or creating suffering for others. It's not in their nature. So what will happen is I will get the comeback from another direction. So, for example, if I throw a ball against the wall, it comes back to me. I've given it out, comes into my direction. If I throw a boomerang, again, it will come back to me. But if you're in the valley or the hills or somewhere and you say your name, so then it goes into the atmosphere and it can come from many directions. And what is it that comes? Your name will come back to you, but your name is amplified, means it sounds louder than what you put out there. It's amplified plus it's multiplied. Means I only said my name out once, but it comes back to me 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I'll hear it that many times. Echo, it's called. Echo, or I forget the word of what it's called, goes out and it comes back to you. Multiplied and amplified. So this is the understanding. When things happen to me, not necessarily a person has done it to me. For example, like I said earlier, cancer. Cancer cannot be committed by someone to another person. It's an illness that nobody knows what's the cause of it. So the effect is there, but the cause is not known. But what is happening is suffering, is hospital appointments, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, tension, family issues, all of that come into it. So now, what karma teaches us is that many karmas that we have performed in the past are held in reserve. Means it's not that there is an immediate reaping. Reaping can happen after a few births. Karma has different level of force or intensity. Like, for example, someone is suffering on a very high scale, means there's intense suffering in their life. And for some, the suffering might not be so much. For example, mind is strong, physically weak, financially okay, relationships okay. Somebody once said to me, and I remember those words a lot because I see it happening a lot. Somebody once said to me that in the world today, relationships are the most difficult thing. And I was like, what? And they said, yes, relationships have become very, very difficult. And then I thought about it, and yes, it's true. Means physical suffering we cope with, we take painkillers or we rest or we go for a walk, we change our lifestyle, we eat certain foods. Financially, we manage. We have sufficient for our day-to-day needs. But relationships, the conflict is there in relationships. If you look at what's happening in the world right now, every day on the news, you will see suffering. You will see the war, Putin, and the guy who's the president of Ukraine. So this is relationships, and there's a lot of conflict in the relationship. So it's two people that don't get on, but many suffer. Many suffer means it's like somebody in your family, two don't get on, but everybody feels the impact of it. And so within all of this, why are we learning the law of karma? Simple. Because if you studied law, then you will know that ignorance or innocence of the law does not make you, excuse me. Innocence or ignorance of the law does not make you exempt from suffering. It's like you cannot say to the judge or to any court of law, oh, I didn't know this law existed. It doesn't work. And believe me, I've tried it. I was caught once when the law of wearing a seatbelt, it came out. So one day the police stopped. I must have been in my late teens, and I was with my auntie, and the police stopped us. And they said, you weren't wearing a seatbelt. And we said, oh, we didn't know that you had to wear a seatbelt. And how can they tell that you're not wearing a seatbelt? Because they can see that bit here, that you're not wearing a seatbelt. And so this trying to get out of it, that, oh, I didn't know this law existed, does not work. So the same applies to the law of karma. To say that I didn't know, well, if I give sorrow, I'll get sorrow, doesn't work. Because this is inbuilt within the being. We have this wisdom that whatever I give out will come back to me. Maybe I don't know the details of the law, but I know the basics. And so within the law of karma, there is room for change. I might have sown a negative seed, but I have the chance to sow another seed which will impact my future. Within law, there are 2 or 3 things which have a huge impact on your punishment. One thing that has a great impact on our punishment is the word intention. The difference between manslaughter and murder is this one word, intention. If you have the intention to kill, then the punishment is higher. But if somebody runs somebody over, there was no intention to kill, it's called an accident. And so the punishment, even though the person has died, the punishment is less. And so this word intent or intention plays a huge part in the punishment. So the room for change that we have is that I can make promises. I can decide. A promise is what? It's a decision. It's a decision that I will not think about what, it's a decision that I will not think negatively about a person. Somebody asked me last week, is that how do we create karma? How do we create a debt? And I said, very simple, 2 words. When I hurt someone, it creates a debt. The hurt that the other person is feeling because of something I have done, that creates a debt for me. I have hurt them. I've hurt their feelings, so there will be a debt. The other reason that the other way of creating a debt is hate. So these 2 words, very easy to remember. Hurting someone, hating someone. Hatred also creates a debt because I am going against the grain of the soul. It's not within the soul to hate. The nature of the soul is love. And love is not a commodity. This is a topic that needs to be taken up also. Is that what is this thing called love? It's not a commodity that I've given or I've taken. I gave my mother so much love, yet she still doesn't appreciate me. Or I give others love, but I don't get it back. Love is not a commodity that you give and take. Water is a commodity. Gas is a commodity. Petrol is a commodity that can be given and taken. But love, peace, happiness, these are states of mind. I can be happy 1 minute, I can be sad another minute. In which of these two emotions, happiness or sadness, which of these two emotions do I prefer? Because now we've understood emotions are in our hands. Emotions are the result of feelings. So if I feel hurt, then after the feeling of hurt, there is anger. Sometimes I cannot express my anger because I'm in a peaceful environment, I'm at the center, and so I cannot express my anger. So I suppress it. I'll give others the cold shoulder treatment. I'll give them dirty looks. I'll give them negative vibes. All of that creates a debt. Sometimes we do it on purpose, that I want the other person to know that what they've done to me is not right. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Out of all of this, because now time is running fast, out of all of this, what does the law of karma really teach us? What is the purpose of this law? The purpose of this law is, if I've understood it, then I will have something very precious, and that is called peace of mind. There will be no question that why am I going through suffering? Why is this person going through what they're going through? Why me? There is no question at all, because the law of karma teaches us that there is no such thing as injustice in the world today. It might look like there's injustice. It might feel like so-and-so is getting away with murder, but it's not true. If not in this birth, in another birth, there will be the reaping, there will be the comeback, there will be the consequence, there will be the effect. And so karma is a vast subject, but the purpose is that I feel at peace. There are no questions. There is no sorrow either. Whatever I'm going through, it's all helping me to get through a debt, to finish the debt. It's helping me to lighten my load, any form of suffering. And like I said earlier, physical suffering is the easiest, because if the mind is strong, it can sow the right seeds. The mind is strong, it can earn money, you can get back on your feet, you can make your body well. And there's many thousands of stories out there where they've used the power of the mind to heal themselves. There is no such thing as injustice in the world today. Even in a court of law, it might feel as if they're being given the wrong decision. Somebody's being put into prison for something they didn't do. But even that is karma. Even that is owing from some past karma. Without the sowing, there cannot be the reaping. And so to learn to accept this law, to live by this law, to create a credit or to create good karma, all of this is what we're learning through this law. We're not concerned in who are the agents who will enforce this law. So who's going to put this law into practice? Who's going to make sure so-and-so gets punished? There are no specific designated agents. Like there's no police out there. And there are certain actions which, when we commit those actions, the police cannot do anything. Like, for example, if a husband is getting very angry with his wife, or he gets angry with her daily, shouts at her, makes her feel small, puts her down, all of these things, and you call the police will do absolutely nothing. They will say that when he's shouting at you, we don't have any rights. But if he hits you, then we can take action. So now that person is getting angry, they're shouting, they're making you feel small or whatever. Will they be punished for that? Will there be a reaction or a consequence of that action of getting angry? According to the worldly law, there is no reaction, there is no consequence. But within this law of karma, whatever somebody has given out, it comes back to them on any different level at any given time. There's no time limit, there's no time frame, and it's not that the person who did it, that they will give it back. No. It can come from another direction at any time, in any birth at any given time. In this law, you cannot appeal. In those worldly laws, you can go to a different court and appeal. But within this law of karma, or the law of cause and effect, who will you appeal to? And so for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Equal, opposite. What's going out, what's coming back to you, this is the law. And so, out of all the actions we perform, which actions have consequence? My thinking, my seeing, my listening, my talking, these actions have more consequence than the physical actions that we do, walking, sleeping, breathing, cooking, cleaning. Whilst performing those actions, there are other actions which are taking place, and the thinking and the seeing, it's that which has a consequence. And so I will finish here. And I don't know if we have time for questions or if there are any questions, because if I've explained properly, then there should not be any questions. God, is he beyond the law of karma? Definitely, 100%. Because if God was in the law of karma, then God is constantly, non-stop doing good. He doesn't do negative. He doesn't do bad. He doesn't do any of that. So if he's doing good, then what would be the reward or the fruit or the reaping that he would get? Can the soul think without a body? Very good question. It can think, but it cannot express. It does have thoughts. Like when somebody passes away, then there are thoughts. But because the soul has mind, intellect, and sanskar, thinking can happen, but expressing or experiencing cannot happen. Like it might have the thought, I should have said sorry to so-and-so, but it cannot express that thought and it cannot experience anything. To express and to experience, it needs a physical body. It's like it needs a CD player to express what's in the CD. So God is beyond the law of karma. He doesn't get involved. He doesn't interfere in our karma, and he doesn't get involved in karma. That's not his lookout. And yes, the soul can have thoughts without the body, but it cannot do anything about them. Any more questions? I think we've finished then.
Indu, I don't know whether you want to answer this question, but you may have covered it. The question is, what's the best way to train your mind to think positive, especially when you engage with people?
Okay. Rehearsal is necessary. So we want to train our mind. We don't train our mind on the job. The training happens beforehand. So it's like you have to when you're on your own, sit quietly. Sit quietly means without the phone, without a book, without the television, just you, and then you're going to train your mind. And the mind is equivalent to a wild horse. So that wild horse, how will it be trained? Horses, their training is very specific and very special. And the people who train horses, they are called horse whisperers. And what they are doing is they are stroking the neck of the horse very gently, very softly, carefully. And they're whispering in the ear of the horse. They're not shouting at the horse. They're not being firm or anything, very gentle. So our mind is like a wild horse. We want to train it to think positive. The way I speak to myself is the most important thing. Like, for example, I gave an example in the session. I am a peaceful soul. This is the training. To slow down your thoughts is the training. And the speed of our thoughts is in our hands. I can think very fast, or I can slow down my thinking. In the world today, we are taught, we are trained to think on our feet, to think fast, not to be slow in our thinking. But in order to make the mind listen to us, so either you consider it a wild horse, or your mind is like a newborn baby. It needs love, it needs attention, it needs care. And if a baby is crying, then a good mother, she doesn't just let the baby cry. What she will do, she might be busy, but what she will do, good mother, will pick up the child and start stroking it or holding it or rocking it, and she gives it a lot of love. And the baby stops crying. So our mind is crying. It's crying because there's so much happening. Like, watch the news and your mind will cry. The mind starts feeling for that which is happening in Ukraine, or for something which is happening in your own family, on your own doorstep. The mind is crying. It's desperate for peace, desperate for love, desperate for happiness. It's desperate. It's crying. It needs gentle, pure, positive thoughts. I need a stock of positive thoughts. One or two thoughts will not cut it, will not do the job. I need a supplier. I need access to a supply of pure and positive thoughts. And so when we listen to such talks, then we create pure thoughts for ourselves. Nobody will do it for you. It's like eating. Nobody can do it for you. They can bring the food to your mouth. The spoon can go as far as your mouth. But the actual eating, you have to do. The actual drinking of water, you have to do. The actual going to the bathroom, you have to do. So within spirituality also, the actual effort, you have to make it yourself. Nobody can do it for you. Yes, I can supply you with thoughts, but you have to practice those thoughts. You have to rehearse. The training means the rehearsal is necessary before the show. So before you're going to work, train the mind. But this situation will come. What will I think at that time? Mentally practice it whilst you're on the bus or in the car. Mentally rehearse that this will be your response. And then when it happens, see if it works. And if not, then do it again. Do the rehearsal again. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Indu. That was absolutely brilliant sharing coming from you. One thing I did take away from you that would help you in any situation is meditation, because then you get the clarity of the right thoughts as well. And I think that's one of the biggest things that would help. So thank you very much for today, Indu. Can I ask you kindly, looking at the time, would you finish off this session with one of your commentaries, please, and meditation? Thank you.
Now, because we have to face reality, we have to keep our eyes open. We cannot close our eyes in today's world, because if we close our eyes, we will get hurt or we will not know what is happening out there. So the same applies in meditation. Don't close your eyes. It's a big secret. I am not escaping in some fantasy world. I'm facing reality. Whatever I practice in meditation is then what I will practice whilst driving, while cooking, while cleaning. And for those things, I cannot close my eyes. So, eyes open. Focus your eyes on one spot or somewhere comfortable. You can focus on this point of light behind me if you want to, if you can see it. Breathe deeply. And before you start meditating, smile. Smile because you're going to see something very beautiful. Smile because you're going on a journey. So there's a happiness inside you. And now, create the thought very slowly, very gently. I am a pure and peaceful soul. I am a being of light. My nature is one of peace. Peace with myself. Peace means no questions. Peace means contented. I am a pure and peaceful soul. I am a being of light. I am a pure and powerful energy. I am power. I, the being, am the master of my thoughts. I have mastery over my thoughts. I have mastery over my senses. I decide what I will listen to. I decide what I will say. I decide what I will speak because I am the master. I am responsible for my each and every thought. I have access to God's power, God's energy, God's vibration, pure and beautiful, pure and powerful. I am pure and peaceful. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
Indu, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting.
Yes, thank you. And I hope we'll have you back here very soon. Thank you. Okay, everyone, before you all leave, just got to make two announcements. We've got our next Friday's talk that's coming up. We have Toots from our global corporation house in London who's going to be joining us next Friday. The topic being finding and holding the quiet within. And all those who are Shivani Ben's fans out there, we've got some good news. We're going to have Shivani Ben joining us, not in person, but online, who's going to be joining us on the 2nd of April from 11 o'clock till 12:30 p.m. And the whole idea behind this is it's going to be one question that you have. There will be some information coming out to everyone where you'll be able to submit your questions directly on there that you may want to ask Shivani Ben. And so this information will coming out to you very soon with a link. So please keep this date free. It's Saturday, the 2nd of April, 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And we'll see you next Friday, same time, same place. Have a lovely weekend. Om Shanti.